Hello, I'm Riele, and today I would like to talk about something that you may actually care about, that is Lightfastness of chalk pastels. Give this video a like to promote the topic and let's begin. Here is the second batch of my chalk pastel Lightfastness tests. I'll link the first part in the description. These swatches were placed on a west-facing vertical window for a year or slightly longer at a latitude of 52.5 degrees. The middle sections of the pairs were covered with thick cardboard, while the sides were exposed. These sheets were exposed to sunlight from April 2024 until July 2025. I apologize for spilling soda on one of them while writing the script, but the scan is fine. The first contestant is Blue Earth Pastels, specifically the Land and Sea Sampler set of 21 and the Portrait and Figure Sampler set of 21. I see no changes whatsoever. I assume their entire range should be fairly light-fast, as most of their colors are quite subdued and they use cadmium pigments in the warm tones. The only colors I would expect to be slightly less light-fast are the quinacridone tints, encoded as P for pink in their range. And since we're discussing Blue Earth Pastels, here's a short review. I can say two things: they are amazing and they are not for me. They are very soft, depositing a lot of pigment at once. They stick well to regular uncoated papers and blend beautifully. They probably remind me the most of Schminke pastels, but even softer, comparable to the softest Sennelier shades. And this is why I dislike them. They are too soft, too smooth, and I have to work very carefully to avoid overloading the paper. I prefer slightly harder, grittier textures so I can glaze and layer without worrying about being too heavy-handed. The sticks have a nice rectangular shape that lets you cover large areas with the side and add details with an edge. However, they're quite small, and given their softness, they won't last long. So if you work on small formats and uncoated papers, they're a great choice. Otherwise, I can't recommend them. And one last thing. In E4D, the brighter green line isn't because of my dirty fingers. The stick wasn't mixed properly and contained a bit of a different green. It's no big deal, and this happens with most brands occasionally, but it can be unpleasant when a dark fleck shows up in a lighter color. The worst offenders for me so far have been Sennelier, where I found the same unmixed light violet in two different sets. Our next subject is the Mount Vision Thunderstorm set. It's a beautiful set with subdued blues, a couple of greens and many violets. I do see some minor fading in the violets. They disclose pigments on their website, so we can trace the culprits. 230 through 233 contain bone black, quinacridone magenta, pyrrole red, carbazole violet plus titanium dioxide. While PR122, PR254 and PV23 are fine in mass tone, they fade when diluted, and that's what we see here. 670 through 674 contain PB28, carbazole violet, bone black, and natural iron oxide. Again, PV23 may fade. 680 through 684 contain bone black, titanium white, and PR254, which is notorious for fading in tints. I also tested a few open stock colors and again saw very minor change in violet 781. Overall, this is very minor fading, nothing to worry about. Still, these subdued tones could have been mixed from more light-fast components, but they likely opted for the nominally non-toxic organics instead of robust minerals. Mount Vision pastels have a drier texture that I really like. They're similar in softness to Unison, but feel slightly different, almost ceramic. Next, I have two sets of pastel cubes from Caran d'Ache and a few purchased open stock. These cubes have been discontinued, but they are identical to the leads in their pastel pencils. I see minor fading in 161 with PB15 as the culprit. However, 083 and 631 hold up exceptionally well for light pinks and violets, and the earth tones are excellent as expected. These are great pastels, especially if you can get the cubes instead of the pencils. Then comes a Daily Rouney set of cool colors, some of which are probably mislabeled as I don't have the wrappers anymore. Lightfastness is acceptable, though I see fading of the yellow component in one green. However, they are very hard for soft pastels. The Prussian blue is almost unusable. It's as if crystalline and it glistens when broken. Other colors are alright, but the palette is poorly balanced. The lights are too similar, the darks are not dark enough. Overall, I can't recommend this set, though individual open stock colors on sale could be worthwhile. Then we have Paul Rubens pastel pencils. The earth tones are fine. The deep violet is surprisingly not bad, but all of them seem to get duller and sink into the paper. The worst ones, 5, 6 and 14, faded even when covered by cardboard. The rest of the set is usable, especially as an ancillary material to soft pastels. I'm not sure whether they're still available. They emerged on AliExpress early last year and seem to have disappeared since. Then come two Diane Townsend set Misty Mauves and Smoky Blues. The blues are outstanding, but in the mauves you can see fading of the red component, likely from pyrrole red or naphthol red. Not awful, but not ideal. I love their laydown and texture, and I highly recommend their Midnight set of 12 chromatic blacks. Next is the Terry Ludwig set of 30 ultraviolets. The lighter shades faded noticeably. This is expected from dioxazine violet or quinacridone violet. But considering the price, they could have done better, for example using manganese violet for warmer tones and ultramarine violet for cooler tones. Those aren't as bright, but the trade-off in lightfastness would be worth it. That said, the overall quality is solid. I especially love the soft yet slightly gritty texture of the darker tones. The next sheet was exposed for a year from July 2024 until July 2025 and features the Russian brand Gamma. Their pastels are fairly new and I love their texture and colors. Lightfastness isn't perfect, but not bad. I have a set of 60 picked by Olga Abramova, whose palette reflects her contemplative, subdued scenes. I also bought 3 open stock colors: Cobalt Blue, PB28, Cool Pink and Magenta. Overall, they use tried and true pigments, though a few colors seem suspicious. In this set, only 236 raised red flags, made of PR112 and PO64, both notoriously poor in tints, but surprisingly it held up well with only minor fading. Oddly, I also saw fading in 766, yellow ochre plus black plus white, which shouldn't happen. A few others like 350 and 348 also faded, again due to pyrrole red and dioxazine violet in dilution. I love Gamma's laydown and texture. I'd gladly buy the full range, but their sets overlap heavily with many duplicates and some colors are only available in certain sets, but not individually. I hope they eventually do sell all colors open stock. Overall, they have fantastic texture, they stick well to uncoated papers, they're medium soft like Unison but smoother, closer to Schminker or Blue Earth. The only weakness is they lack a good range of darks. Then I have 2 small Earthberry sets, Forest Thicket and Heavenly Light. I see some fading in 127, Violet Red, and minor fading in 118, Diluted Phthalo Blue. Not bad, not amazing. These might be my favorite pastels in terms of palette and laydown, but their lightfastness is inconsistent. I have tested larger sets and results vary. Outside Russia, they're overpriced, so if you're paying €5 per stick anyway, I'd recommend Unison instead. Speaking of Unison, I have a few reds from them, perfect as expected. Finally, I tested a few Schminke and Sennelier colors. 2 pinks, Rose Madder D and O, darkest and lightest versions, showed some fading in tints as expected, but not severe. Sennelier 703 and 783, Pyrrole Red plus White, also faded in tints. My unwrapped Schminke sticks were solid as expected from their subdued tones. Bottom line, if you buy pastels from any major professional brand, most colors will be fairly lightfast. But watch out for organic pigments diluted in mixtures. Bright, light reds usually contain pyrrole reds or naphthol reds. Light pinks are often quinacridones, PV19, PR122. Violets often contain PV23. And light cyans usually use diluted PV15 or PV16. All of these pigments are fantastic at full strength, but much less so in tints. As for the brands, Unison relies on mineral pigments, giving them superior lightfastness. Blue Earth is a great choice if you like soft, creamy textures. I haven't tested their quinacridones, but they should show only minor fading. The rest of the range should be impeccable. Mount Vision pastels are great. They mostly use reliable pigments and reveal the pigment contents on their website. Some colors will show minor fading, but nothing to worry about too much. Sennelier and Schmincke are reliable, though they include some fugitive colors that are usually correctly labeled as such. Diane Townsend have a great texture, but their lightfastness is not so consistent and they don't reveal the pigment codes to pick out problematic colors. I have tested only 24 colors and I haven't seen many tests online of their other colors, so I can't tell you much. Terry Ludwig should be alright overall. They use a small selection of generally lightfast pigments, but again, some of the brighter colors will fade in tints. And considering the price, there are better options for less money. Daler Rowney offers credible ratings and pigment codes, but their pastels are much harder and the palettes are less versatile. They work fine on papers like pastel matte or sanded papers, but not so well on regular papers. If you get these, I suggest getting either a sanded paper or a grittier ground, otherwise they are quite underwhelming. If you're in Russia, Gamma is a great choice. They have a great quality, but a few colors may fade to some extent. I would put them in the same tier as Mount Vision. Earthberry may be hit or miss, but if you don't care about lightfastness, they are my top pick in terms of texture. And lastly, just don't buy Mangyo Handmade or Jackson's pastels and you'll be covered. You can watch my previous lightfastness video for the details. If you're interested in more information about lightfastness in general and why some pigments are better than others, please refer to this video, share your thoughts in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one.